Welcome, I'm Paul, this is Dave, the cutie pie right here. Today I have 14 Glitch in the Matrix and paranormal stories for you. Let's get to it. Case file number 2785, written by I Was Serious Face, Flop, Turn, River, and the Dream. In high school, I had a really strange dream. I was in a bright room with a large group of people. I didn't recognize any of them, except for my best friend, who was sitting across from me. We were playing cards, but I had no idea what the game was. I vaguely remember figuring out that it was a poker game, but I wasn't familiar with it. The last hand that I played before I woke up, there was a huge pile of chips in the middle of the table. I had a king of diamonds and a queen of spades. I played the hand normally, and everyone showed their cards at the end, because it wound up being a situation like Casino Royale, where everyone had crazy hands. I woke up feeling confused about why I had such detail in a dream about something so mundane, as my dreams are usually pretty blurry. 5 years later, I was in college, playing Texas Hold'em with my friends getting drunk, as we did from time to time. We were playing in a room we didn't normally play in because we had more people than usual. The cards came out, and I had a king of diamonds and a queen of spades. Slowly, the wheels start turning, and I get an overwhelming sense of déjà vu. Apparently, I looked like I was crapping bricks because someone asked me what was wrong. I announced that I felt like I had been here already. My friends were evenly split amongst non-believers and Christians. The Christians disregarded what I was experiencing as a fluke and scoffed. The non-believers were generally skeptical as well, and they started mocking me. I told everyone to put their cards back on the table, and then proceeded to predict all 10 sets of pocket cards, including suit. I then announced what the burn cards were, as well as a flop, turn, and river, and I was right on every single card. I stopped playing cards for a while after that, and I started having serious anxiety issues because I kept having dreams about mundane things, and wondering if they'll come true. Future knowledge indeed, but can you imagine if you could control this? I mean, it's like having a genie on hand. You don't predict what the lottery number of the jackpot is going to be. Easy 2 billion, no problem. Or I think that's the biggest jackpot there ever was, right? Even if it's just $1 billion. Oh, it's not going to scoff at that, right? Or if you could predict every hand. I mean, replicating it is the problem, of course, but man, it's such a cool power to have. Case file number 2786, written by Nil Sanity, Netflix and Regret. I was hanging out with my significant other at the time, and we were making out on the couch, like all upon each other grinding and moaning. We had not seen each other for a couple weeks, as she had just gone back from vacation, so things are really starting to heat up, and we're getting ready to shed our clothes when the phone started ringing. My partner lets out a groan and complains, telling me to not pick it up. You know how phones are though. You just can't leave them ringing because what if something important, etc. So I pick up the phone and this older sounding man speaks up on the other end. I can't really make out what he is saying though, so I tell him to speak up. At this point, my partner, probably because she was annoyed that I had picked up the phone and stopped our makeout session, hit the speakerphone button on the phone cradle. Loud and clear this man's voice blasts from the phone speaker. "What are you doing with my daughter?" What are the odds, right? The timing. Or he's spying on you. Maybe with binoculars, maybe with supernatural abilities, but who knows? Fathers are protective. Case file number 2787, written by Apprehensive Rip 752, International Flight with Domestic Confusion. My partner and I were at Ho Chi Minh Airport. We just changed from a domestic flight and needed to board an international flight. Somewhat annoyingly, the domestic and international terminals aren't connected and you have to walk outside of one to enter the other. Anyway, we were traveling with our little one and had their pram plus 2 carry-on pieces of luggage. We entered an elevator, exited on the 2nd floor, and proceeded to passport control. I was managing the pram and one of the other pieces of carry-on luggage, and my partner carried the other luggage. The lines were long at passport control, so my partner stood in line, and I was just across from them in the other with my child. I distinctly remember looking over to my partner. They had one of the carry-on bags, and I had the other, My line moved quicker, so I motioned to my partner to jump in front of me, take her carry bag and our child through first, as passport control only wanted one adult at a time to go through. My partner was stamping through with our child. They had the pram and one piece of carry-on. I distinctly remember them having both. From exiting the elevator until this point, perhaps half an hour had passed. I then followed through passport control with my piece of carry-on, joining my partner in a line to have our bags x-rayed. At that point, I looked down and asked my partner where her carry-on was. We just looked at each other. It was gone. We couldn't believe it. How had it disappeared? The only solution was that we had left it somehow before going through passport control, but we both looked at each other in astonishment as that was impossible. We both clearly remember either rolling the bag or it being with us at several points in the last half hour. Regardless, it simply wasn't. Somehow my partner convinced passport control to let her go back into the country. Retracing her steps, she ended up going all the way back to the elevator from which we had entered the international terminal. The bag was by itself in the middle of a corridor about 10 meters from the lift that we had exited over half an hour earlier. Hundreds of people would have passed by it, and yet it was simply there in the middle of the corridor. We distinctly remember having the bag with us at multiple points since exiting that lift. Why would we have exited the lift in the first place and just left the bag in the corridor when we both had the pram and the other piece of carry-on luggage with us? Case file number 2788, written by Hannah P. AirPods, lies, and airport bathrooms. I was traveling with AirPods, and after going to the bathroom in the airport, my open backpack toppled over. I put everything back in, but my fanny pack was open as I was leaning over. Once on my connecting flight, I couldn't find my AirPods, realizing they must have fallen out in the bathroom. I ripped apart my fanny pack and my backpack, even asking for a second set of eyes from my husband. They were gone, and I was miserable as the plane had no TV, and we were stuck on the plane waiting to be de-iced for 2 additional hours. The Find My Device app showed them last connected at our Airbnb in Barbados. I looked in my belongings again, once we were home, and confirmed they now belonged to the airport. Okay, hold your socks. Fast forward a month later, and I opened up my fanny pack to pay for gas, and there were my AirPods, front and center. What does this mean? Yeah, we always get DOP stories. I mean, those are just as common as bread and water, which isn't to say they're bad. I love bread and water. Well, I know, it's bread and butter, not bread and water. The bread and butter of glitch stories, there you go. But let's just say this one was very expressive, because yeah, what the fluck. Case file number 2789, written by T-Boner6969. The Pitter-Patter of Terror. I was using my computer in my basement in high school. I heard the sounds of something fall, and then immediately after, the pitter-patter of small footsteps down the hall. I knew it was my little brother spying on me, or generally trying to screw around. When he was younger, he would often lie in wait and pop out and ambush me with Nerf guns. I waited a minute for the imminent attack, and nothing happened. I then called out his name and that I knew he was down there, so he should come out from hiding. I didn't hear any response, so I rounded the corner out of the basement computer room and snooped around the hall and rooms trying to find him. I couldn't find him, and I thought that was pretty weird, so I ran upstairs. I doubted he was up there because I didn't hear him run up the steps. I saw my mom and said to her, "Tell little bro nice try." She looked at me and said, "What do you mean? He's been asleep for a while now." That immediately weirded me out, so I went to his room to check on him. He appeared to be sleeping. I shook him and said, "Hey, nice try down there. What were you doing, spying on me?" And then I realized he was legitimately asleep, and I had just woken him up. He has been sleeping and I really woke him up. No kid is that good of an actor. My mom came in and got all mad at me for waking him up. I was pretty shaken by this realization, so I just said okay and went back downstairs. Case file number 2790, written by Krasno Lutek. Mirror, mirror in the steam, who's that lady in my dream? To bring you up to speed, my father died when I was young. Several years after that, my mother married into another family, and I got some stepbrothers and sisters. Shortly after moving into the house my stepfather and his family had been living in for years, I was sleeping one night and had a dream. This was very shortly after we moved in, certainly within the first month as I recall, but don't know exactly when. So in my dream, I am in the bathroom. It was a correct rendition of the shared bathroom that all the kids who lived at home used. Some of my new stepbrothers and sisters were old enough to have moved out. In my dream, I get out of the shower and I'm about to scrub my teeth, dry off my hair, and generally primp myself up into the 13-year-old hormone-raging male pile of gorgeousness I was. But the mirror is fogged up, so I have to clean it off. When I clean it off, there is a ghostly image of a very stately older lady with what I call old lady blue hair, just her head and shoulders. She wasn't in the mirror, but rather appeared to be standing behind me, which would have put her in the tub. I remember in my dream turning around and seeing nothing, but she was there in the mirror's reflection. She wasn't frightening or menacing, but in the dream I knew she was a ghost, and I wasn't scared, but the hair was standing up on my arms and on the back of my neck. What I call douche chills. Not that I know if women even get that, but whatever. So she was just there, staring, smiling gently, head sort of tilting side to side. Nothing happened, end of dream. Fast forward to the next day, when I got home from school. Shortly after we moved in, my mother had been cleaning up around the house a bit. My stepfather had been a widower for a bit, so things needed tidying up. Not maid-like cleaning, but things like going through the attic, garage storage, etc. So at any rate, when I got home from school, there on the table in the living room was a new picture that had been freshly framed. It was that flucking woman I had just dreamt about the night before. What the fluck? I froze in my steps, and here came douche chills again. Turns out it was my stepfather's mother, who had been deceased for several years. My mother had found it in the attic during her cleaning up, and decided to get it framed for my stepfather. The hair was identical, the eyes, the lines on her face, everything. It was her in every way possible, no doubt. As an adult, I almost have to convince myself that I must have seen this picture before. Perhaps it was on the kitchen counter or something, after my mother found it, but before she took it in to have it cleaned up and framed. I don't believe I did, however. The dream I had is as clear in my mind as it was over 30 years ago. Yeah, cases like this just go to prove 100% there's more going on than we know, because you never saw that picture before. I think we all know that. You know that. It's just what you have to put out there because, yeah, otherwise there is no rational explanation. I think it's still rational to say your mind's able to access additional information. We just don't know how. It's pretty cool, though. Case file number 2791, written by Drowning. Neptune's Prank. My favorite ring, an amber ring that my mom gave to me, unfortunately was swept away by the ocean in the summer of 2021. I was so upset about it that I cried a little bit at the beach that day. Fast forward to 2025. I have a tiny basket that I keep in my bathroom that has all my piercing jewelry in it, plus some random odds and ends. I was digging through it today, as I often do, to change out my nose-piercing jewelry. Lo and behold, there's my amber ring that I lost in the ocean. I was so confused. I've dug through this basket of jewelry countless times. I've even dumped it out to find a specific nose or belly button ring, and there isn't that much stuff in it. I would have come across the ring by now. Anyway, I'm very happy that my amber ring is back, but still completely perplexed as to how it got there. Case file number 2792, written by Adelaide 499, The Stainless Steel Shuffle. I'm an inpatient pharmacy technician at a rural hospital in Texas. I was coming back from delivering medications at the inpatient rehabilitation center and got into the staff elevators. The elevators are two stainless steel standard hospital elevators side by side. Another pharmacy technician was coming off her break and she got on the same elevator as me. We both got on the left side elevator cab on the first floor. I tell her I have to drop off some medications to the ICU, which is on the third floor. She tells me she'll just ride with me, and then we'll go back to the pharmacy, which is on the second floor, together. Well, we drop off the medication to ICU and go back to those same staff elevators. Again, we both got on the left side elevator cab. It's important to note that us pharmacy technicians habitually use a left side elevator cab because that is the closest elevator cab to the doors of the units. We do multiple rounds delivering medications a day, and we always use the left side elevator cab because it's the most efficient. So me and the other pharmacy technician are in this elevator and it arrives on the second floor, but the door won't open. We can both hear the mechanical whine of the door trying to open. It only moves the tiniest bit before shutting again. Doesn't open enough to see out or even stick a hand out of it. We call the house supervisor in a panic, and as she's about to call the fire department, the door opens and we both run out before it can shut again. We were only stuck for about 10 minutes, but it was enough to rattle us. We both turned around, and to our complete confusion, we came out of the elevator cab that was on the right. We both are 100% positive we use a left elevator cab because that is the cab we always use. We never use the right side cab. It's an unspoken rule between all of us. We can't make any sense of it. The right side cab elevator now has an out of order sign on it. Hey, elevator stories. I am always welcoming an elevator story, but this one's a bit different. Normally, you emerge into a different location from the elevator. That is to say, a different universe, and you go back in, and then you're back in the original. But this one, you flipped elevators, the locations in them. It's almost like the electron bridging that happens at very small levels, where electrons can cross physical barriers, because it's like a cloud of probability. When you're inside an elevator, maybe something similar is happening. I don't know how, but it seems like that's what happened. You were in a cloud of superposition, of probability, and you emerged on the right side instead of the one you were in originally. Case file number 2793, written by Selfcare 2025. The Girl, the Manual, and the Impossible Timeline. I was sitting in a guy's truck across from my physics class and building. We were talking, then I looked up and saw one of my lab partners walking towards the building. I told him I just saw my lab partner and I need to go ahead and get to class. Mind you, he never looked over towards her as he was still looking at me. When I made it inside of the building, I passed my other lab partner, let's call her A. I told A I just saw B, and can't believe she made it up 3 flights of stairs that fast because A didn't see B while walking down the stairs. The moment I said that, B texted us that she was trying to find a parking spot and will be in the lab pretty soon. I was so confused because she was already parked. I still went inside the class and waited for B to come. She came in wearing the exact clothes I saw her originally when I was in the truck talking. She also just had her lab manual with her just like I saw her carrying too. I freaked out and told her this and she called me a liar. I texted the guy friend asking him did I not just say I saw my lab partner, so I'm going in, and he said yeah. She began to freak out too, but didn't believe me 100%. After the lab finished, she told me if I was certain I saw her park and get out, walk to her car. Mind you, before that day, I had never seen her car before. I ended up walking out the side building and walked around the dumpster and went straight to her car where I saw her park. She even parked in the same spot. She freaked out even more and rebuked me. But honestly, I don't know what happened. I only had this happen one more time with a stranger after that, and then it stopped happening. Case file number 2794, written by Owown. The time when breaking would mean certain doom. Was visiting my friend, who lived in the States, English Dutch here. I went to a party one night in a place I can only describe as bumfuck nowhere. I wasn't drinking for antibiotical purposes, so I was a designated driver for the night. No big deal. Americans drive automatics, it's not even driving really. So as we're about to leave, some of the others at the party ask us which way we're going to be going home, and my friends say whichever way we're going home. To which they all reply, you should probably go the longer way, but we weren't really having any of it. They then told us to at least not stop until civilization. Slightly curious as to what was going on, I turned to my buddy and asked what was all that about, to which he replied, don't worry. I didn't not worry, but we left all the same. Driving along this winding road, trees either side and no real lighting aside from what was coming from our car, the tarmacked road was full of potholes and was wide enough for one car. If and when another did pass, both cars would be off the road if you catch my drift. So as we round this corner, we see this thing lying across the width of the road. I slow down to get a better look, and can see that it's a person. Worried it might be dead or bleeding or something, I slow down next to it, when my friend tells me, "Don't stop driving." The way he uttered those words sent chills down my spine. So without saying a word, I maneuvered the car off the road, through the ditch, and around the lifeless body. As we pull off and check in the rearview mirror, the body sits up, stares at the car as 4 or 5 other people come out of the bushes, staring at us as we drive off, stupidly fast for such a small road. Later learned they weren't spirits or ghosts or yetis, but modern-day highwaymen. Still scares the crap out of me. Yeah, okay, not supernatural or paranormal, just one of those stories I put in there because, remember, human beings have the capacity to be so much worse than even the worst demon that could possess someone or the most angry ghost. Just be careful. People are nuts. Case file number 2795, written by Anonymous. Tea, Talk, and Tissues. When I was 12 or 13, I was sitting on the top of my stairs reading. It was quiet in the house. My mom was in her room reading as well, and my dad and brother were not home. It was a bright, sunny spring day out. In winter, my grandma passed away from cancer. It was painful, but it was her time, and our family had been moving on as well. My only regret is that I did not get to say a proper goodbye. I was too young and I had not experienced death yet, so I couldn't really grasp the situation and couldn't fathom saying goodbye. When I sat on those stairs, I heard someone talking to me. Grandma was an immigrant to Canada from England in the 1960s. "Hello, Jesuits, how are you?" And a huge conversation broke out. For 20 minutes I talked with this woman without lifting my head from my book. I never got up to see who I was talking to. I just accepted that I was now talking and did so. I didn't feel anything, like I was numb for those 20 minutes. We discussed my school, life goals, my friends, and after a while, she said, "Well, it was nice to see you again. Goodbye." And I said goodbye as well. And that was it. Silence. I sprung up to realize no one was there, that I was talking to no one. It couldn't have been in my head. I heard the echo of the sound bouncing in the stairwell that I was sitting in. I heard the voice move around. I heard footsteps and movement. But no one was there. No one was ever there. My mom was still in her room. I went from calm to curious to terrified in seconds. I let out a huge scream, freaked out, and ran into my room, too scared to leave again. Well, until dinner time, of course. I still to this day believe that my grandma visited me and gave me this chance to give her a proper reply. But I'm not scared to remember this. It doesn't give me chills. To remember the moment actually calms me and makes me feel better. I know there's a rational explanation out there, and that I likely just fell asleep and dreamed, but I'm much more at peace with the supernatural reason. Case file number 2796, written by Carlos, 19-1297. Mother knows best, usually. I was still in university, but visited my parents every weekend. This time, though, I had some free days from school, so I decided to go early. I don't remember exactly if it was Wednesday or Thursday, but it doesn't really matter. Only that in that specific day, my parents were supposed to be out of town to a city which is about 4 hours drive away. So imagine my surprise when I opened the front door and see my mom just standing there, a couple of steps away, right next to our guest room, looking straight at me. It caught me off guard, of course. However, as much as this feels like a ghost story, her presence did not inspire any sort of fear within me, as if it was actually her. As I'm standing there, a bit baffled and concerned, since there was no car in the garage, which meant my dad left without her for some reason, I ask her why she is at home, and why is the front door locked. Our home has a big yard, so usually the front door is always open. Instead of getting a response from her, she opens the guest room door and walks in, leaving me even more shocked. All of this happened in just a couple of seconds. There were no long stairs or anything like that. She looks out the door and tells me, with a gesture of her hand, to follow her. I walk towards the door, not concerned but curious, actually. My mom and I always had a super close bond, and we both love animals and wildlife, so I thought she was being playful and going to show me a surprise of some sort. She's done that kind of stuff before, like one time I got home and in the most casual of ways proceeds to tell me that she got in a swamp to rescue over 20 alligator eggs since the owner of the lands was going to crush them. Moving on, as I get to the guest room in just a couple of seconds, she's somehow not near the door, but rather across the room, which made no sense since I walked faster than she did and would have catched onto her. This did unsettle me a bit, but the next thing happened too fast for me to really think about it. As I saw her across the room, she was already entering a restroom that we have there, and as she entered, she again popped out the door just to gesture for me to follow her. I again did. The biggest surprise came when I got in the restroom and found out she was not there. In fact, I was all alone. The restroom had no other way out, not even a window. As I'm standing there, everything I just witnessed in a couple of seconds just started sinking in. Why did she not talk to me? How did she get across from the entrance of the room to the restroom faster than I got to the room, if I clearly walked faster than she did? I got out of the room and into my room, where I just sat in my chair and called my parents. They were indeed together, in the city. I just laid back and played Xbox, because really, there was not much I could do. Case file number 2797, written by Ponu. Hair moved, tree shook, soul left my body. My boyfriend at the time and I were out house sitting for his parents one weekend. I was about 19 or 20, so there's no mistaking what happened. It was roughly 10 p.m. on a Saturday night. My boyfriend is playing a video game in one of the bedrooms. I'm in the living room reading. Nothing spectacular. The house is fairly large, but not overwhelmingly so. So I'm sitting in a chair in the living room, reading. There's a fake tree behind me that fills the 3 feet of space between my chair and the wall. There's a side table to my left. Everything's normal. Until a gust of wind, air, spooky crap blows past my face. My hair moves. The tree behind me shakes like a fucking gust of wind from nowhere just blew through its branches. And then something bangs into the wall. I immediately get the fuck out of there, run to the bedroom where my boyfriend is playing games, and just start crying because I have no idea what the fuck just happened. I finally calm down, then we adventure back into the pit of that evil place to investigate. All doors and windows are locked, tight, sealed shut. There's barely even a breeze outside. There is nothing in the area around the chair to even slightly explain the thud I heard on the wall behind me. House sitting was officially over. For the remainder of our relationship, I never set foot in that house again after dark, ever. Case file number 2798, written by Nelson13, from Duluth to Damnation. I go to college in northern Minnesota, Duluth. While there, I met one of my best friends, let's call him Jesse. Jesse's brother, Mitch, and roommate, Nick, live about 2 hours south of where we go to school, in Minneapolis. One weekend, me and Jesse decide to go visit the two of them because they're both 21 and have some pull in the city, so they could get us into bars. When we get down there on Friday afternoon, and they say instead of going out tonight, we're going to investigate some paranormal stuff at a house their buddy just bought. Apparently they're huge into ghosts. So it's like 2 or 3 on a Saturday morning, and we head over to this house. Me, Jesse, Mitch, and Nick all head into this guy's basement. Well, crawl space, rather. Mitch pulls out this Ouija board and we all sit in the ground and place our hands on the piece. Nick asks, "Are there any spirits with us right now?" The board answers, "Yes." He asks, "How many?" It answers, 1. I ask, "What's your name?" It answers, "Nala." Nala. We are all extremely creeped out at this point, so we decided to call it quits, because it was working too well, and we had no idea what we were in for. We pack our things up and leave for Mitch and Nick's apartment. Alright, here we go. So we leave my friend's brother's friend's house, and go back to my friend's brother's apartment. Still following? At this point, it's about 4:30 in the morning, and Jesse's brother, Mitch, just making sure, has gone to bed. The only 3 people awake are me, Jesse, and Mitch's roommate, Nick. We decided, bad idea in hindsight, to get the Ouija board back out. We sit at their dining room table, place our hands on the piece, and Nick asks, "Are there any spirits here with us?" It answers, "Yes." I ask, "How many?" It says, 1. We ask its name, and it says nothing. So we start asking questions about us, to see how legitimate all of this is. Nick asks, "How many people using this Ouija board right now live in this apartment?" It answers, 1, which is correct. I ask, where are me and Jesse from? It answers, Duluth. Now we're getting a little freaked out, so we make the questions tougher. Having never met Nick before, me and Jesse took our hands off the piece and had Nick ask it questions about the two of us, because there'd be no way to fake it. I go first and have Nick ask the names of my two best high school friends. This is where it gets weird. Stay with me. The board answers, Mike Wackles and Tyler Baldwin. Nick's never met them. I never told him anything, but the board got it completely right. Jesse's turn. Same question. It answers Greg Flickinger and Dexter Mudgett. Totally correct. Nick gets up from the table, me and Jesse sit down, and ask the same questions for a third time, about Nick's best friend, Walker. It answers right, of course. We decide to make the questions a little tougher. We have Nick use the board by himself again, and he asks a complex question about our group of friends in college. In Cody and Jesse's group of friends, what's the name of the kid who thinks everybody likes him, but really nobody can stand him? It answers, Tyler Hodge. Nailed it. There's no pauses between questions and answers, no spelling errors, it's too goddamn real. So we take it to the toughest level we know how to, by writing down something on a piece of paper in a different room and asking the board about that. Jesse goes first. Me and Nick are at the table. I say, Jesse is in the bathroom writing down a number on a piece of paper. Go in, find out what it is, then come back and tell us. Something's different this time. There's no immediate answer, as if the spirit itself is going into the bathroom to find out. Another thing to add, Mitch and Nick have two of the most timid dogs I've ever met. When the spirit went into the bathroom, the dogs ran in there and started raising hell so loudly at Jesse, it was unbelievable. After a few more seconds, the board answers, 7. Jesse brings the paper out. 7. We're shaking now. It's my turn. I go in and write down a letter. They ask the question. Same thing. Not immediately. The dogs start to attack me. The board answers, K. I bring my paper out. K. 2 for 2. Nick goes to the bathroom, writing down a letter and number combo. Same thing for a third time. The board answers, R4. Nick reveals, R4. Finally, we're getting too scared. We ask, who are you? The board answers, Nala. We realize it's the same spirit from before. Nick asks, did you follow us from my friend's house before? The board answers, goodbye. Often in these paranormal stories, it's really the ending that seals it and just makes your soul go cold. I mean, just answering goodbye, Nala, come on, what are you trying to do? Trying to scare them, really? Because that's what would happen to me. Just answer yes, I'm friendly, don't worry. I don't mean you any harm. It's even worse if a ghost or spirit can follow you from a different place, if they're not tethered to a location. I mean, normally that is the case, but in this case, it can move around and even know information. Well, it's not like they could just go to a computer and Google it, right? They had access to information that exceeds the boundaries of their locality. It's like they could peer into your mind, read it like a book. Now time for the jokes of the day. I told my son I built a model of Mount Everest. He asked, is it to scale? I replied, no son, it is to look at. They smoke cannabis, overthrow the government. Call it a haiku. What kind of doctor is Dr. Pepper? A physician. And he is the best doctor. Yeah. I saw this reel on Instagram of a lady that was over 100, a centenarian, and she drinks Dr. Pepper every single day because she's smart. Keep doing it. I asked my girlfriend if she would choose me in a room full of men, and what she did next gave me chills. She turned on the AC. I've begun to invest heavily in stocks, beef, chicken, and vegetable. One day I hope to be a billionaire. Yummy. Alright, there's another video that YouTube thinks you'll like. Check it out, and don't forget to like the video and subscribe. See you next time.